This podcast was produced by Shaun Weston Media.
From a dimly lit cupboard somewhere in England, two people chat about communications and sometimes they chat about other things. Welcome to From the Comms Cupboard. So, resources. I never feel like we have enough. And I've worked for a number of good companies, but it always felt like we need more stuff. We need more tools to do this. We need an extra person to handle this for us. How do I ask for that? How do people ask for more resources? Are communications departments generally under-resourced? God, here's a bunch for you.
Wow. A simple answer, yes. Time to go. I know I've done that one before. I would say yes. I mean...
Yes for what?
Fundamentally, communications are under-resourced. Because you can always do more, can't you?
You can always do more. You can do more than you need as well.
Do you think communications teams are good at saying we can't do that because we're under-resourced?
Well, I think any department often finds it hard to say those things for fear of, oh, I'm asking for money or I'm asking for something. They're going to think this of me.
Yeah.
I think people are afraid of that.
And do you think that's because communications departments as a whole are really kind of deemed as something non-essential? Or do you think it's good enough what we do? And they're not showing that they can do more. They're not showing the value add.
Does this come down to being able to show evidence of why you need that extra person or you need that piece of software? Or
I think so. And also being afraid to ask.
Yeah. I think there's an element of being perceived to be of lower value than perhaps the sales team.
Or marketing.
Marketing.
Because I personally see communications and marketing as different things.
They're very different.
Often lumped together in organisations,
Yeah.
but quite different. But I think historically marketing is much better at showing its value because they can technically try and link it to a sales perspective.
Well, they can link it to sales, but you know what else marketing have become good at over the years? And I say this as a marketing professional, is being able to show metrics. It's being able to supply metrics even when they're a load of rubbish. You could make metrics up and get away with asking for an extra £1,000 for whatever you need. Communications departments probably find that a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
They go off the back of a survey, perhaps, or...
Yeah, well, there are tools out there, and we've definitely talked about this before, but those tools cost money, so not always seem as... to show the value of them. But I think that's where you really have to get a bit bossy, right? As a comms function, that, you know, the only way you're going to be able to, you know, be endorsed to go out and do more is to be able to show what you've done and the impact that it's done.
Well, that also increases their perception of value of you, I think. Because if you're always knocking on their door and saying, you know, we need to improve this now and here's how we do it, can you help? Then you're always on their radar.
Yeah. And also, in a way, you know, a big part of an internal comms team is really helping, you know, a huge part of it is helping a leadership team to communicate with its people. Who doesn't like being put in a good light? Who doesn't like that sort of real show of impact that time I put into my podcast and that time I put into those videos? People are appreciating it. You know, it's actually having a positive effect. So it's great to see, I don't know, 70% of people have watched that video. That's great. That makes me feel quite good about what we're doing and also putting in that time and effort. So I think being able to show that is really important.
What if you have a disengaged leader who you found it hard to actually get on that podcast and to engage with employees? They generally just, you know, they sit in their office a little bit too much. How do you ask them for more resources?
I think you need to get to know them and know what makes them tick. Because there's always going to be something. It's like personal relationships, isn't it?
Well, find out they have a dog.
I think maybe from a business perspective more than personal. Maybe say, you can pet my dog if you give us an extra £35,000 to get some more people in. Get some people in.
But I suppose that person will have more objections. So what are the common objections you might get from a disengaged leader when you ask for more? Please, sir, give me more.
I think it's always going to come back to, actually, what does this give us? How does this help our business to deliver its purpose. So I think that's for like every department, really, isn't it? And for comms, it's quite hard because you're often, especially if it's internal, you're an overhead for any business. It's a bit like a HR.
Isn't that a horrible thing to think of yourself?
We'll get called a support function.
Yeah.
Because really you're just there to help everyone else do their job.
Isn't an overhead an expensive lamp? You know? Am I an expensive lamp? I'm just an overhead.
Yeah.
You just unplug me and stick me in the back of a truck and say goodbye.
Sell me to somebody else.
Sell me to somebody else.
Yeah. So you got to prove that you're more than just a support function, that you're helping. And we've talked about this before, but you know, if you communicate well, your employees are more engaged, they're more likely to work harder to want to deliver that goal. So I think you have to, really hard to show it, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you have to explain that to your boss, then they're rubbish at their job. If they don't know those things already, if they don't know that they need to engage with their employees and stuff, why are you working for them?
Exactly, go somewhere else. I think if you can't easily justify why you're there, then you're probably at the wrong place.
You're probably at the wrong. I love that. Yeah. Did you feel that breath of fresh air?
Yeah.
It's just, you know, that cold air.
And it's definitely something most people don't do. I mean, how many people act on feeling underappreciated in that way? But that's got to be the best way, hasn't it? If you've got the talent, why waste it with someone who doesn't appreciate you?
So what sort of resources are we talking about exactly for a communications professional? We're talking about the technical side of things, so perhaps the software, the subscriptions to Slack and things like that, yeah?
Yeah, it could be that. It could be tools like that. It could be, I don't know, you bring in an extra resource who's a videographer. I think we've talked in the past about comms people expected to do everything. Well, if I'm not spending, or people in my team are not spending X amount of time doing a video or a podcast, and we get someone else to do that who's a specialist, so maybe it gets better, so it's a better product anyway, they can then do this X, Y, and Z. They can work with our team leaders more, they can work with our department heads. You got to justify it in that way, haven't you? So yeah, there's technology and time and people and effort.
I always felt that when I entered a business with, and I was the first of my kind to be there, and I've known that, where a company doesn't quite know how to work with you, but they know they need you.
Yeah.
They think, well, we can't do this thing, so let's bring this guy in, he's going to show us how to do it. And I've always known when that's the case, and I've always felt that sense of freedom. So for the first few weeks, I can get away with asking for all of this stuff because I know that's exactly what's needed, and they're going to have to take it on trust. But you also know that there's a line. You know, don't ask for a Lamborghini when you only need a Ford pickup. Yeah, when you only need a Fiat, that's better. And it's quite an enjoyable experience. Does that make it harder for the next person coming in?
Yeah, I guess it would. I guess if you're following somebody who's done a bad job, so it's going to make your job harder. But maybe it also highlights they need to bring someone in really good. If that last person wasn't giving them what they wanted, especially if that person was the first of their kind.
Yeah.
Why does that feel like a bit Game of Thronesy, the first of their kind?
Well, you see, I didn't watch that, so this is a cultural moment that's just going whoosh right over my
culture.
head. Yeah,
it's not something you want to be a part of. But I do think, yeah, you can only be the best person. You can only deliver the best you can do. But there will always be perceptions from people of the people that came before, or someone that was great, equally someone that was fantastic that worked there and went on to bigger and better things that you followed in, and maybe you can't do what they can do, but you've got to show you what you can do.
Yeah.
I think going back to your earlier question about what sort of things people ask for, and maybe one of them is like development as well. So you might be asking for money to train people to do things as well. So I think quite often we buy new tools and don't really know how to use them as well. So actually, or we've got someone who's great, they've been very good at doing lower level stuff, but actually we want them to be more strategic and do things, and actually let's get them some development that's going to help them get there. It's too easy to say we want to hire somebody, isn't it? Why don't we develop the people? If they're showing that they've got that they will take the opportunity, then maybe that's where you can show value as well.